So why are people buying?
Fear.
Like 44% less people are buying.
Yeah.
Fear.
I get it. It's difficult too. This is expensive.
Yeah, you gotta have that down payment saved up, and if you're renting somewhere and you don't have the opportunity to save, yes, it is a big problem.
It is.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks with my co-host, Michael Ng. I'm Kenneth Yim, and we are talking today about, what do we want to talk about today?
We're talking about, are we at the bottom of the market? It seems like a lot of people are asking that question these days.
I don't know. Do you?
Well,
to be honest, I don't know.
A lot of conversations we have, it's with buyers and sellers who are worried about making a move because they're thinking that something is going to happen. And it seems like they're waiting for the dust to settle with all the Bank of Canada rate changes and everything,
Right.
Before they actually decide on doing something.
Right.
And the conversation that we have a lot for buyers and sellers who are aiming to be buyers because they have to move into their next home is that they want to wait and see if we're at the bottom of the market yet.
Yeah, so that's a hard question to ask. Are we at the bottom? Because nobody actually knows.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And the Bank of Canada just released their rate hike announcements a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as you may know, as everyone knows, they also signaled that they're going to continue these increases until they hit their core target inflation of 2 to 3%.
Mm-hmm.
And 3% being at the end of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and 2% target ideally being in 2024.
Yep.
So if anything, that means that they're going to continue to being like tightening up their fiscal policy, meaning that they're going to continue to raise rates until we hit that target.
Yeah.
Which is a scary time.
Scary time.
So
they're saying that it's ideal too, so we don't even know if inflation will respond the way they want them to in 2023 and 2024.
But I think certainly that, with these rate tightening cycles, I feel it anyway, that it's certainly slowing down the market. The market number of sales in September have dropped by 40-something percent, 44%. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So you're basically taking away half the market. So I think that definitely is taking effect, and it's going to take a few months for it to really show up in the real estate market.
Yeah.
But certainly it's costing a lot more to pay for it. My own mortgage has gone up quite a bit. I'm on a variable payment.
Same.
And I have a couple that are static variable and some that are flexible, that are floating variables that float with the rates too, right? So it's like double the rate, like double the cost, if not more.
Yeah.
So I think it does have the wealth effect, the intended effect of bringing down prices in terms of general spending in the economy.
Yeah.
For sure. I know I'm a little more hesitant to buy things now personally.
Yeah.
So are we at the bottom? I don't know. I think
It's hard
to say. My gut feel says that there's still a bit more room to go down just because the Bank of Canada is still going to continue raising the rates.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve in the U.S. is still going to continue the rates, and we model ourselves after the Canadian, the U.S. banking system. So to me, that shows that there will be. However, how much more can it go down? Like I personally don't think by much, right? Because there's a bunch of support lines right now. So we have the number of immigrants coming into Canada. Our population is definitely aging. There's not enough productive people in the workforce to be able to support the Social Security that we have now. So what do they got to do? They got to import workers. Right?
They're retiring and going away.
Yeah,
at
and we're
a
talking
high
about
rate.
430,000 this year and scheduling up to like 500,000, 500,000 in 2025. Like we're going to continue to go up for the next foreseeable future. I think it was Ontario expects to have 1.5 million people increased over the next 10 years.
Yep.
That's 150,000 people per year.
Yep.
And we only have capacity to build 100,000 homes. So every year we're going to deficit of 50,000.
Well, their goal is also to have 1.5 million extra homes built by 10 years from now.
To meet that demand.
Do you think
they're going to do it, though? The most they've ever done was 100,000.
We only hit 100,000 a long time ago, and we haven't been able to hit that benchmark again year over year.
Because of COVID, because of supply constraints. Okay, so immigration is one bottom support line, having a floor, stopping from the prices hitting like a floor, basically, right? There's also lack of listings because a lot of sellers that I'm talking to anyway, they don't want to sell because they think it's a bad time to sell.
Yeah.
So they're not putting in the market. And if you're a buyer right now looking out there, there's not much inventory. Well, good inventory that you're looking for.
Well, new listings down, 30 to 50% year over year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because for every housing type.
Sellers aren't selling.
Yeah, sellers aren't selling.
So they're holding out, and I think it's like a fight between buyers and sellers right now, right? Buyers want lower prices, but sellers aren't willing to sell because it's too low, and there's moving it, right? So
And that's interesting because it looks like there's downward pressure on on affordability as well, because now it looks like everyone's moving away from detached to semi-detached to townhomes, and they're moving further down towards condo apartments, which prices are still climbing for those housing types.
because it's affordable.
Yeah.
The bottom end price really does make a difference.
Exactly.
So
and in a way, also making it unaffordable for others as well, because it's driving it up.
correct. Yeah. Okay. So the third support line I would say for prices to stabilize is really the cost of things aren't coming down anytime soon.
No.
Well, maybe they are with inflation fighting and stuff like that, right? Like, materials and labor, that doesn't seem to be shrinking. Like, to be clear, when they're talking about fighting inflation, it's not talking about bringing prices back down.
Yeah.
It's just talking about slowing down the increase.
The rate
prices,
of increase.
The rate of increases, right? So I don't think labor is going to get any cheaper. I don't think materials are going to get any cheaper.
No.
And maybe with the construction starts slowing down, like builders aren't building as much anymore, right? Because it's kind of uncertain time. They'd rather just sit on their land and hold off and wait. Then the construction trade will have more availability, more capacity, which in theory will bring down the prices because, there's more available labor. So I think in that aspect, it may balance out a little bit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, land is not getting any cheaper.
Yeah.
Like landowners are just going to, they've already waited like 20 years.
Well, land's scarce,
what I
right?
mean?
Yeah.
It's scarce. I think it's a scarce resource in Canada anyway, even though there's so much abundance of it. It's just the buildable areas because of the Greenbelt in Ontario and the water in Vancouver. You know what I mean? Like there's so much constraints on why we can't just constantly build either out or up. There's only so much, and a lot of NIMBYism and infrastructure can't support it. It's not enough people, not enough schools.
That's a different podcast.
Right. So I think those three things give big support and why prices aren't going to, like, there's going to be a floor for prices. On the other side is that buyer affordability is shrinking because the cost of borrowing, cost of capital is a lot higher. And most people buy with mortgages in today's day and age. Back in our parents' age, maybe they bought something outright in cash. Now it's not possible, right? Because prices have gone up so much.
Well, they went from 25-year amortizations to 30-year amortizations.
Right. And I remember at some point it was like 35-year. Now it's back down to 30 max, right?
Yeah.
So, and then CMHC's done some 50-year amortizations really recently for multi-unit buildings, commercial buildings. So anyway, the point is that I just don't see that the bottom is really necessarily, I wouldn't say there's much more room to be at the bottom. Certainly we're not at the bottom, but we only have a limited window to be at the bottom. And I think the chance of it going any lower is probably a lot lower than the chance of it going back up. Does that make sense? So sure, it might go down another 10% or so, maybe. Who knows, right? But the chances of it turning around at some point, I don't know when that window is. Maybe sometime next year, maybe sometimes the year after in 2024. I don't know. But like, we're very close to the bottom.
It feels like it, especially with the fight on inflation that we have right now.
Yeah.
Like, sellers are very hesitant to lower prices. It's always faster to raise prices, and it's always a lot slower to lower prices. And we're talking about a rate of change here. So it doesn't seem like things are changing very much anymore. It seems like there were a lot more quick changes in the earlier markets, especially during the spring, fall of 2022. But it seems like, sellers are holding out now, and buyers are feeling that as well because, you still have multiple offers for quite a few decent homes.
Right. And I guess at some point those sellers are going to have to sell though, right? So I'm curious to think why you say that prices go up faster than they go down.
Well, sellers don't want to lose out. Sellers of anything, whether it's a good or whether it's a home, they don't want to lose out on the value that they perceive that their item is. So they're resistant to lowering the prices, and they want to keep the prices higher.
So in other words, prices are sticky because sellers don't want to take a hit on the loss.
Yeah, they don't want to.
So they're willing to hold off and not sell.
Yeah.
Or rent it out.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be, right? At least carry the place and not take that haircut if they don't have to.
Yeah.
Because, you're right. It's hard to buy a house, and why sell it when you already have the financing in place and everything's good to go?
Yeah, they already have a home.
Right. So
don't have to worry about it.
You're right. Prices are sticky. They probably won't come down as fast. You're right about that, and that's a little more. Anyway, what I am concerned about is the renewal rates. So if these interest rates stay too high for so long, like in theory, if you think about it, everybody's typically on a 5-year mortgage, right? So if you're looking at every year, 1 in 5 ought to renew, like in theory, just at a macro level, I guess, big picture. So that's 20% of people should be renewing every year.
Yep.
And if from 5 years ago you got a mortgage, now it's time for renewal, and your rates all of a sudden from 2.5% now to like 5.5%, 6.5%,
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It's
That's
big
like
difference.
Three times your interest costs, which is pretty much half of the mortgage, has gone up by 3 times, which means like if you just do simple math, it's your payments have gone up by a month 1.5 times.
Yeah.
That's like approximate. Obviously, don't quote me on that, but like every situation is different. But I'm just saying, like that's a big affordability gap that people aren't going to. So those are the people that are going to be forced to sell.
Yeah.
But thankfully they have enough equity built up that maybe they should refinance at a different level, a slightly higher level, if they can qualify for it.
Yeah.
Take some equity out and then basically weather the storm that way, right? Like I don't know. I just don't see that we're going to have a significant crash like most people on Reddit are saying, or on the online forums, because it's still real estate. It's still tangible. It's still an asset that you can use. It's not like a piece of art sitting on the wall. It's discretionary that you don't really need to have.
It's not like crypto.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, it's like, it's a place that people can live in, whether it's the purchaser living in it or renting it out to somebody that's going to live in it, or a combination of both.
For sure.
Or, so I just don't see the downside if you're holding real estate in the long term. Certainly there's a lot of people that are going to get hurt that can't, have that over leverage themselves and can't make the payments and just can't catch up.
Yep.
And they have no means of that. And then they're going to, get closer to foreclosures. But so far, I just don't see in Canada anyway, the number of foreclosures is still single digits. It's still very low.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I know it's low.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't see it going down that much more.
Well, thankfully we have our mortgage stress test in place, and it was, fairly hard to qualify. And that certainly took care of, or it gave us a buffer at least for anyone who may have foreclosed if we did not have that measure in place.
So that mortgage stress testing, meaning that they qualify you for 2% above the current rate, right? So that if the rates do somehow go up quickly, like I might add, then you can weather the storm. So right now we're qualifying for 2% above the bank prime of 5.79%, right?
Yeah.
5.79? 5.95. Anyway, you're looking at...
for the latest rate change, it's 5.95.
Right, so you're looking at almost 8%. You're qualifying at 8%.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy to me. But I guess it needs to be done,
Yeah.
So it's not getting cheaper. I don't have the answer for it. I don't think anybody has an answer for it. And people are debating it all the time. Like, there's a whole liberal versus conservative debate right now, but saying that the liberals caused it and now they're trying to fix it. Like their bad spending habits. But then, liberals are saying, what do you want us to do? Like, what, we're just going to sit there and do nothing when this pandemic hit? So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do. All I know is that if you have the capability to buy something, maybe it's a chance to do so.
Yeah.
Because it's a long-term asset that if you're lightweight, like if you don't have much real estate in your portfolio, I think every portfolio needs to have a bit of asset-rich stuff.
Well, it's shifting a mindset, right? You switch yourself from being a buyer who's struggling to get into the market to a seller who's holding on in the market.
Right.
If we are close to the bottom, it just means that it's going to keep climbing up, and that's when the transfer of wealth happens.
Right. So smart people definitely would be taking advantage of this market.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a down market. I think it's more an opportunity market, if anything. Right?
Oh yeah.
Because it's on one hand, the asset prices have come down, but on the other hand, if you're getting a mortgage, the actual cost to make those monthly payments have gone up significantly, actually more than what they were at if you were to buy at a higher price back then, right?
For sure.
So if you didn't buy back then, it's not as good time to buy now. Obviously, you should have bought back then, even though there were higher prices.
Yeah.
But like now's the next best time.
Yeah.
Right. And
we don't know when the next best time is going to be.
Well, next best time is today, right?
Yeah. Because
at the end of the day, we still have enough people coming into the country to be able to support the prices, whether it's resale prices or, rentals. Because when they first land here, they're going to rent, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking to rent out all or a portion of your home, then it just completely makes sense to do so.
Yeah, and even basement apartment rentals are crazy right now. I mean,
it's nuts.
Everyone's fighting for everything that you can find.
I think, the biggest problem right now is affordable rentals
in
the world, actually. There's no good solution for affordable rentals. No. Like, I don't know of any. And, I don't know. Yeah,
when you factor in population growth and you're not dealing with a stagnant population, then yes, affordable housing is a huge issue.
Right. Because you can't go back in time and when there's less people, like the world is being more and more populated as we have more kids. Life happens, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're all going to want to have kids. Well, not all of us, but like a lot of us do. And our population just grows and we're living longer. So we all need a place to live. And you have a choice between a big city or somewhere else, right? Yeah. You're going to pick somewhere with big city with better infrastructure, better schools, better jobs, better et cetera, healthcare, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't see it shrinking. I don't know.
No, not in a city as populous and as busy as Toronto.
Right.
Especially with growing businesses, investment from large companies coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It's unlikely that we're going to see any major dip that people expect.
So why are people buying?
Fear.
Like 44% less people are buying.
Yeah.
Fear.
I get it. It's difficult too. This is expensive.
Yeah, you got to have that down payment saved up. And if you're renting somewhere and you don't have the opportunity to save, yes, it is a big problem.
It is.
But there's, solutions to get out of that, right? Like co-ownership, right? Buying with a spouse or a partner or a friend or a relative or, anybody, a partner, really. And then there's, if you can afford to buy a freehold property that has more enough space to be able to rent out different rooms, and you just take one room where you live in the basement, for example, and you keep your costs low, have somebody offset some of the cost. Yeah. There's ways where you can add value to a property if you're a different level and you have some equity saved up and you can buy a house. Maybe you add on a rear addition or an accessory dwelling unit, like another separate, like a garden suite or whatever, right? And rent that out. That makes it a little more affordable and makes it more valuable, the property itself.
Especially now that, parts of Ontario are allowed to build up to 3 different housing dwellings.
Right. So new legislation from Doug Ford saying that we're now, as of right, allowed to, or soon, at least it's going to be tabled anyway. Soon we're going to be allowed to build 2 or 3 units without going through zoning changes, as long as the footprint doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Yeah. I think there's more enough upside in real estate if you look at it at a bigger, just zoom out and look at it from a larger perspective. Yeah. In the long run, I'm talking about like a time horizon of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, maybe, or longer. Yeah. You can't go wrong. No. If you're looking at year by year, sure, there might be changes and you might be upset and it doesn't move as fast. It's not as liquid. There's a lot of transaction fees involved in buying and selling such a large asset because there's a lot of risk in buying and selling such a large asset, such as if you say the wrong things, you could be leaving money on the table, right? So that's a big reason why those transaction fees are so high. Yeah. And you need someone like a professional on your side, like us, on your side to be able to help you, right? So, no, but essentially you do need somebody that knows what they're doing inside, like every day. Yeah. So I think if you have a long-term perspective, there's any way to get in the market, do it. Do it as like whatever you can, whether you do it with partners, tenants, or whatever it is. Yeah. You can't go wrong holding real estate.
Yeah, just like anyone who snatched up U.S. real estate in 2008 and 2009.
I remember those days. You could buy houses, you could buy condos and townhouses for like 20 grand U.S. Yeah. You couldn't get financing on them, but like 20, 30 grand U.S.
If you had the cash.
If you had the cash.
Just put it down.
Man, I wish I had more.
And you can Airbnb it now.
Can you?
Well, for a lot of them, yeah. That's how they're building wealth, right?
Right.
For a couple of people that we talk to when we go down to the States, they bought their place during some foreclosure sale or something, and then they turned it into an investment property, rented it out. When Airbnb became a thing, or VRBO, they switched over to Airbnb and VRBO, and they have a solid portfolio.
True. Speaking of that, I'm not a huge fan because I actually had 2 of these conversations this morning with other people. I'm not a fan of Airbnb and short-term rentals. Yeah. First of all, in condos, you're not allowed to do it. Wear and tear. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're not allowed
to do it, right? And in parts of Toronto, like in certain major cities, or small towns, they don't like you doing that because it just creates all this, like, first of all, it screws up the tourism industry, like the hotel industry, so they're lobbying against it to change the rules. Yeah. The communities get all messed up because there's all these transient people coming in and out of the cities, for sure. Right? So I don't think people like it. So they banned it. In Toronto, you have to have I think you have to live there for 6 months of the year or something. You can only rent it like a couple days in the month or whatever. Yeah. So
and it has to be your primary residence.
Correct, something like that, right? So there's some rules surrounding it. So there's that. There's the wear and tear, like you were saying. There's a maintenance of furniture, potential lost rents, vacancies, having to turn over again, having to repaint the place or fix furniture, for example, or maybe somebody moves in and says, "Oh, I'm going to be here for a year or 6 months or whatever. I don't want the mattress. I want my own mattress." And the next person comes and says, "I need a mattress." It's like, oh, then what do you do? Where do you store this all?
Yeah, hotels are there for a reason,
right? Then the third thing is management fees. So because it's so intensive and it's like a job in its own, you need to hire a proper manager that can manage Airbnb. So
unless it's your full-time job.
Unless it's your full-time job, exactly. But that's going to cost you 15, 20, 25%, maybe 30% in some cases, depending on what they provide, plus all these fees. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me with the vacancies cost and management costs and the wear and tear. It doesn't make sense to do short-term. I'd rather take less money and have a stable tenant that is going to take care of the place and treat it like their home because it is their home.
Well, luckily we don't see it doesn't seem like there are too many of those short-term rental places in Toronto.
There's a lot.
I mean, there are a lot, yeah, but compared to anywhere in the States, it seems like there are far more in every city there.
Right.
It's kind of crazy when you look at how many there are in one specific area. We recently booked tickets to Miami, and literally every other house in certain areas were just Airbnbs.
Really? Yeah.
It's just why
I'm
are there
sure it's
so
the same
many?
here. I'm sure you just haven't checked in Toronto, but I'm sure there's definitely a lot of Airbnbs here. Anyway, the point is there's a whole bunch of strategies on how to invest into real estate and how to make it worthwhile. And I would say that the bottom line is there's an opportunity market right now, and I think you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't take action into something today, because the time to make money is now during turbulent times. So if you can do it, do it. We'd be happy to talk to you if you need to. And stay tuned to the next podcast. Until then, I will see you guys later.
Add it up.